This is Democracy Watch. Mark, the question I'm getting more than any other right now is, was there fraud in this election that prevented the Democrats, prevented Kamala Harris from winning? So I want to kind of explore this. So right off the bat, was there fraud?
There was not fraud, and it is important that those of us who spoke out so clearly after 2020 that Joe Biden had won the election fair and square, that they point out that whatever concerns we have, and they are legion, the concerns we have about Donald Trump, whatever criticisms we have about how the election may have been run in terms of voter suppression laws, in terms of efforts in Georgia by the state election board there to tamper with certification, that those things are still things that we have to combat. There are still things in the future we're going to have to worry about. We're going to have to make sure that we do not have suppressive elections. But people can have confidence, as we told them they would, that the results of the election were accurate and that they are being certified in an accurate fashion.
So the claim that I'm hearing, I think more than any other on the left right now, is what happened to those 15 million votes? I'm sure you've heard some iteration of that same claim. What's your response to that?
Yeah. So first of all, I started hearing claims about missing votes when it was 20 million. Now, as you point out, it's 15 million. I suspect in a few days it'll be 10 million, right? Because what is happening is that ballots are still being counted. Ballots in California are still being tabulated. Ballots in Pennsylvania are still being tabulated. Ballots in some other states are still being tabulated. And in many of those places, the last ballots that are being added to the count, and certainly California being a big blue state, it's a lot of votes, are Democratic votes. So you are seeing the you are seeing the vote totals going up overall. You're seeing Kamala Harris and other Democrats gain more votes, but there are not missing votes, number one. Number two, there are some elections where you have higher ultimate turnout and some where you have lower ultimate turnout. This looks like it will probably be a little bit lower total turnout than 2020, but that happens from election to election. And one of the reasons why you're seeing fewer votes for Kamala Harris, unfortunately, is because fewer people voted for Kamala Harris relative to Donald Trump than in totals, which is why he won the election. And that is a terrible thing to have to say, but it is the truth. And like I said, Democrats can't now fall into the same traps of believing in election conspiracies that we were critical that Republicans fell into.
So there is a sense of disbelief among those on the left in terms of ticket splitting, with Kamala Harris losing, but with down ballot Democrats winning. What's your explanation for that?
Look, in some ways, that actually proves that the system wasn't rigged, right? I mean, if they were going to rig the system, if there was going to be some grand conspiracy, which there was not, you would have expected to see it ticket wide. The fact is that, in a number of swing states where Kamala Harris lost narrowly, Democrats down ballot performed better than her. And by the way, that's consistent with what the polling looked like before the election. So this is not a surprise, right? We saw polls before the election that saw Jackie Rosen running ahead of Kamala Harris in Nevada. It's no surprise that Ruben Gallego ran ahead of Kamala Harris in Arizona. That's what the polling predicted. And it was also predicted that that would be the case in states like Michigan, where Elise Slotkin won narrowly the U.S. Senate race, and Kamala Harris lost narrowly the presidential race, and also in Wisconsin. So that's not a surprise. The thing I would point to is that we also saw this same swing, a somewhat uniform swing, in blue states, where, Donald Trump overperformed Joe Biden's numbers. Kamala Harris still won, and down ballot Democrats largely won.
What about how progressive policies won on ballot measures, but the top of the ticket Democrats who actually espouse those positions, they lost?
That is not unexpected. The fact is that the efforts to restrict abortion were among the most unpopular policies Republicans had. And so where you saw ballot measures to protect reproductive rights, it's no surprise that those ran ahead of all Democratic candidates. I mean, they didn't just run ahead of Kamala Harris. The pro-abortion ballot measures ran ahead of nearly every Democrat on the ballot. And that just goes to show that that oftentimes the policies that Kamala Harris and other Democrats espoused were very popular. It is just that when those get translated for one reason or another, and there's a lot of prognostication about what those reasons are, but that those policies are standalone more popular than the candidates who carried them.
There's this idea floating around that Trump won't be allowed to take office because he's an adjudicated insurrectionist. We found that out from a courtroom. I believe it was Judge Wallace in California. Also, Colorado trial court and the Colorado Supreme Court reaffirmed it, all under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so Donald Trump is going to be sworn in on January 20th as the next president of the United States. And I feel like I am now saying the same things I said in 2020 and 2021 when people in your audience wanted to hear them, and now maybe some of them don't want to hear it. But the fact is, Donald Trump won the Electoral College. That is the system by which we choose presidents. He also, by the way, won the popular vote, which is something that I think we need to contend with as a party and as a movement moving forward. But he won the Electoral College. The electors will meet in December, and they will choose him as the next president, and J.D. Vance is the next vice president. On January 6th, both houses of Congress will convene, and those results will be ratified. And then he'll get sworn in at noon on January 20th. And though I disagreed with what the Supreme Court ruled in the Colorado case, saying that he was not an insurrectionist barred from the ballot, I thought that Colorado had the better of that argument. That argument lost. Okay, that argument lost for the Supreme Court, and I don't agree with that court decision by the Supreme Court, but that is the decision, and that is the decision that is in place today, and it is the decision that will be in place on January 6th, and the decision that will be in place on January 20th.
So we've spoken a lot about the different conspiracy theories that have been floating around, but in your opinion, and you alluded to this before in terms of the prognostication, but why did Kamala Harris lose?
Look, I think Kamala Harris lost because she was dealt a very, very difficult hand. I mean, I think that, let me first start with, I think the fact is Kamala Harris ran a really good race. I think that her campaign ran a really good campaign. I think that some of the Monday morning quarterbacking we are now seeing about how they spent money, I think is just nonsense. I mean, the fact is that campaigns have to make 1,000 decisions every day about where to go and how to spend money, and second guessing them now I think, misses the point. She ran a good campaign. I think that Kamala Harris lost because the fact is that for reasons that we could talk about at length, Joe Biden was an unpopular president. Now, I think there are a lot of people, myself included, who think that Joe Biden didn't get credit for a lot of the stuff he deserved credit for. I also think there are people who believe, like me, that Joe Biden wasn't always well served by the advice he was getting or by the people who were promoting his victories, because they didn't penetrate. And you, Brian, probably better than me, know how little penetration there oftentimes was to translate those legislative successes into messaging. But it meant that he was a fundamentally unpopular president seeking to run for re-election, and he was really old. And the fact is, he should not have, in my opinion, run for re-election. And I don't say that to trash Joe Biden. It's just, he was an 82-year-old man running for re-election at a time that he was unpopular and incumbents around the world were unpopular. And that is most likely why Kamala Harris lost. It's not, I don't blame her. I do think that we would have been better served as a party if he had not run, and if there had been the opportunity for Kamala Harris, for her benefit, to be able to run a campaign from start to finish rather than having to jump in at the end.
And I know for a lot of people who are holding out hope, I mean, this is difficult to hear, but I think that, in terms of our position, we've always been committed to making sure that you all know the truth about what's happening, and that we push back on election denialism wherever it happens. And so I do think it's important, as difficult as it may be. And look, I think Mark would agree with me when I say there are no two people who want more to have seen Kamala Harris win this election. So it's not like we gain anything from hiding or suppressing some reason why she might have won. the sad reality is that this election didn't go our way, and there are things that we can change moving forward, and there are some things that we can't change moving forward. Whether it's the economic situation in the world writ large, or the issues that you, Mark, just spoke about with regard to Joe Biden and the incumbency disadvantage in this respect. So I do think it's important to focus on this stuff. And I know that you have been committed to spreading awareness of exactly what's happening, the truth on the ground in Democracy Docket. That is the news outlet you've created to focus on everything voting in elections. For those who are not yet subscribed to Democracy Docket, make sure to subscribe. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.